Yeah, and I'm fascinated by this idea of ancestral wisdom. And it, in so many ways, I guess, runs counter to like the celebration of perpetual youth and all of these efforts towards wanting to be young, right? Look young, act young, feel young, you know. What's the next thing, the next new, and I'd love to know what some of that ancestral wisdom would be, and not as a way of sort of short circuiting the personal learning, but maybe being able to go further because you get like a leg up, you know, or you get like the inside information, or you get like kind of the secret society, uh, you know, like, hey, here's this chunk of wisdom so that instead of you needing to spend X number of years or days or hours or whatever figuring out on yourself, we're just going to give you that if you're willing to acknowledge it as true, so that then you can go further and find other things.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what, at its best, if you're taking the more optimistic approach to how fine art functions, even in the commercial market, even in the present moment, is that what many, or maybe all, of the artists who are making a certain level of impact have done is tapped into something that is vibrating or emanating a greater amount of wisdom than is often acknowledged. Like if you start to think about, like even when we're talking about Tom, you know, he's tapped into a certain kind of line. He's connected very closely and very intentionally tuned in to a spectrum that, in order to really engage with him and his work, you have to also embrace. And I think that, and it often means about breaking systems in order to make something new, or seeing the connection between the, literally the universe and the individual. And so when I think about the ancestral wisdom, I think that, well, you know, your ancestors brought you to this moment, you know, with the help of the ancestors of all the people whose lives you've interacted with up until this moment. And what happens when we start to really acknowledge that we are part of the continuum, and that the choices that were made by so many people before us have brought us to like this current moment, like on the edge of a new reality every breath we take. And when I think about ancestral wisdom, it's like, what responsibility do I have? That's, as I'm saying with my daughter now, that I'm much more aware of how the moments, every decision I make now is in some ways a directive for her. And if I'm not being mindful, I'm not actually, I'm not actually giving it the value that I place on it, giving it the attention that matches the value that I place on it. So I'm really trying to say, like, I chose Amen because my grandmother is a very religious Christian, and she really did embed in me and my cousins, at least, this idea that we were blessings, and that, and I asked her where she came up with this affirmation that she taught us as kids. which said like I'm lovable, I'm capable, and all of these kind of affirmations. That she said that her grandmother used to say that to her, and I realized, oh, this goes back way further than I can count. And I wonder when I think about my anxiety or other fears or negative things, if there are things that were also passed down through ancestors that are subconscious, small framings of perspective. I know, some of my friends whose family members are Holocaust survivors really have ancestral trauma. And so I'm just trying, I don't know, I'm really just trying to process it all and think about how in moments like these to stay tapped into the wisdom that has led me to this point in my life, that all the people who loved me and my mother and my father and all the people who tried to remind us of who we are in moments of fear and doubt, so that I can pass that on to my daughter and to others.